Well, not wanting to waste a minute, Democratic lawmakers are already looking ahead to the November elections, and they're facing a big choice when it comes to President Obama. They would tell you this themselves. Do they want to campaign with him or without him? The president has not campaigned for anyone since a rally for Martha Coakley in Boston. She ran in that special election for the U.S. Senate seat held by the late Ted Kennedy. Remember what happened? She lost to Republican Scott Brown. Then there's the question of how to handle independent voters. Many of them are unhappy with the president's ambitious agenda. And health care. Richard Goodstein was an advisor to the Clinton-Gore campaign, and David Avella is executive director of GoPac, an organization for training Republican candidates. Great to see both of you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Jamie.
Thank you.
David, you first. Let me show you a poll that came out about independents. I want to ask you how important they are because they do show up. Look at the difference, a stunning difference in terms of approval and disapproval of the president among independents. As late as March 2010, 54% disapprove. How important is this voting bloc, David, and what do you think they'll make if these are the numbers?
Sure. Independent voters are ultimately going to have a huge impact and probably make the difference in this election. And the problem for the president is, a year after the stimulus, we're still just short of 10% unemployment. He just nationalized the health care system, all policies that independent voters don't want. And so he continues to push policies that push independents towards Republicans. We should be bold this fall. There shouldn't be a Democrat candidate out there. We shouldn't contest, nationalize this election, and let voters give a job performance to the president, whether they like or dislike what he's doing.
What does that mean? Because I noticed in a pre-interview you said that Republicans should be bold. Just before I move on, let me ask you what that means specifically.
Be bold. We should put our ideas for how to create jobs, keep taxes low, keep regulations to a minimum, let job creators create the jobs, not have government come in and try to do more. We should take our ideas on health care and put them up against what the president has pushed through Congress, which is a national health care system, versus our ideas of letting doctors and patients make their decisions on health care.
All right,
we should be bold.
Let me get Richard in here. Is that a strategy that you would work against, or would you emphasize something else? Because the independent voters in the elections we've seen have spoken, particularly in Massachusetts, and I would imagine they'd be pretty important to Democrats. How do you court them and sway them your way?
Well, there's certainly no question that independents really are what makes or breaks a candidate's success. One thing I haven't seen much of today is the Gallup poll that came out showing the president's approval at 50, disapproval at 42 today. There's generally a pretty strong correlation between how his party's candidates in the House and Senate do in the midterms with the president's approval rating. And if he stays at those kind of numbers, 50, 42, and incidentally, with job creation starting to get traction, I think once people start experiencing the benefits from this health care bill in terms of more coverage and not in preventing these abuses from insurance companies, I think people will actually see that, okay, we got away from a pretty steep cliff, thanks in part to the stimulus. And thank God that the economy is kind of on the mend.
But, Richard, let me throw something into that mix that you just set up, and that would be the cost of the health care plan that's passed, the cost for people out of work that others may absorb. How do you think voters can interpret that when it's coming out of their pocketbook? Between now and November, I would think they would feel the sting of what President Obama has passed, at least in terms of health care.
Well, as a factual matter, not a penny is actually going to come out of anybody's pocket between now and November. Here's what happens between now and November, Jamie. You've got kids up to 26 that can go on their parents' plans. You've got the fact that insurance companies can't discriminate on pre-existing conditions against children. You've got this donut hole coverage. So those are all the things actually that are benefits that start to happen before anybody pays a dime more. As David knows, when Mitt Romney got his health care plan, very much like this federal plan we just had go through, passed in Massachusetts, there was a lot of opposition. People would scream bloody murder today in Massachusetts if you campaigned on trying to repeal that.
All right, so you
and I
believe
think
for
that's
sure,
what's going to happen
Richard,
this fall.
that folks will like what they got and it'll turn around. But, David, what do you think? Because if you have health care that you like and this plan doesn't benefit you directly, or you're a small business owner who now either has to put up or pay up, how do you react if you're an independent voter in that situation, and what do the Democrats need to do to sway your voters?
Sure. Well, Richard mentioned one poll about the president's approval rating. The problem is the other 6 polls that are out there have the president's numbers upside down. Why? Because he's just turned the IRS over to take over the health care system. Those policies are not going to bring not going to bring independent voters over to the Democrats. Look, the president is 0 for 3. He lost Virginia, he lost New Jersey, he lost Massachusetts based on the policies he's pursuing. Richard, I'd offer you this. To any swing district he wants to go into, I can find Republicans who will pay to bring the president in to campaign for the Democrat candidate.
All right, well, this is a big decision. I have to leave it there, but it's a big decision for candidates wondering whether or not to have the president, and he is not traveling all that much.
He's more popular than most of them, Jamie. The president's numbers are actually better than most House and Senate candidates, so I actually think a lot of them will have him in, even in swing states.
And we'll be watching.
See.
Richard, thank you so much. David, good to see you.
Thank you.
Trace?
Well, meantime.